Blessings! It is an honor to connect with you. Thank you for tuning in. So I wanted to make a video on shadow work. Now, I've made many videos including the concept of shadow work, but I have yet to make a video fully explaining the details of what shadow work actually is. And it's obviously become a very popular topic, especially during the transition of these times, because everyone is being called to shadow work. If you are not naturally feeling like, okay, it's necessary that I start working on my inner self so that I can start reflecting a more pure and true version of me in the external reality, then maybe the universe has decided it for you and the universe is requiring you to do your shadow work. So when we do shadow work, that's when we are dissecting and diving into and bringing light, awareness to the hidden, suppressed, unacceptable aspects of ourselves. So our shadow selves, we all humans, everyone has a shadow self, and the shadow self usually has many different aspects. So the shadow self can be developed through multiple different ways. It can be from trauma that was caused during childhood, trauma that was caused during adulthood, or from a past life even. Now these darker shadow aspects of ourselves still exist, though we are all such light and though we are all attuning to such a high vibrational frequency of light, because that's what the shadow aspects do. They do not just readily reveal themselves, they sit in the shadows. So these aspects have suppressed and worked their ways into the crevices of our beings, where they come to light and they express themselves. These lower aspects of ourselves express when we are not paying attention. So we are not conscious often to the shadow aspects of ourselves. Now, if you have become conscious to an aspect of your shadow self, then congratulations, because that truly is consciousness, and that actually is the first step to shadow work, is becoming aware of it. So if you think of when you shine light on a shadow, that space, that dark space, then becomes light, and all that is in that space then is revealed and brought to the light. So when we acknowledge our shadow aspects, when we acknowledge these lower aspects of ourselves, then they feel seen. And truly, that is what they want. They exist, and they exist for valid reasons. These shadow aspects of ourselves were most likely created to protect us. That's the craziest part. What a concept. The aspects of you that are essentially lower vibrational and causing negative habits or negative actions subconsciously and causing you to not fully express and be your true authentic self actually was created to protect you? Yes. So we were all born perfect, healthy, and whole. However, into a sick society. So in order to exist on this earth plane during this time, it is necessary to develop toxic habits and ways of being in order to survive. Now, that is something that we are writing out of our story now, because that has essentially been what we've been working with. All we've really had the tools and the awareness and the resources to work with, and we are now rewriting that story. So that's actually what we're doing with this shadow work. And when you individually do your shadow work on a personal level, it is actually amplified collectively, because you complete that energy when you complete it with yourself. And then as you continue along your path as your whole and healed self, then you are also spreading that vibration. So thank you for doing so. So to give examples of the shadow self would be the jealous version of you, or the envious version of you, or the angry version of you, or the aspect of you that holds yourself back and suppresses you, or perhaps self-sabotages. Those aspects are developments of unacknowledged trauma. So often we develop our shadow aspects when we are going through a trauma and we are not receiving the support or the help or having the space held like our soul needs. Perhaps the environment or the person you are with is not supportive. So when we experience that and we're experiencing an overload of trauma, whether you're having an emotional breakdown or anxiety, or you just found out something that's terrible, or whatever the situation is, that is actually a trauma that is occurring. And if the external reality is not supportive, we then go into ourselves and our ego comes out. Now, the ego is the one who actually is in charge of all the shadow aspects, and the ego is the one who actually initiates the development. So perhaps you were having a trauma, freaking out, having an anxiety attack in a public space, and everyone's just looking at you like a crazy person. Then that part of you would realize, oh, this is not okay. I'm not being helped here. This is making me have more anxiety. I have to stop this. And so that person would instead suppress it and try to tell themselves, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay, without actually dealing with it and allowing it to express itself out. And then that trauma that should have just been released in that situation instead was pushed down into the being and now sits concreted in the being. And now that energy actually becomes manifested into a blockage, actual density that now is a program, essentially. So now this person most likely doesn't feel safe to express themselves fully or to allow themselves to feel. So perhaps this person would then develop the shadow aspect of not expressing themselves out in public, or instead denying that they feel anything at all, which causes an even greater blind spot to the own being who is actually housing and holding this energy within. And often what happens with the shadow self is we disassociate from it. Now this is an act of the ego, because the ego registers, oh, this aspect that I developed and curated and cultivated is really helpful, because now that I don't express myself, we don't feel like uncomfortable anymore in those types of situations. So this is great. We're just going to keep going with this. And that is not truth. That actually is a lie. That is a lie that is being written into the story of the being, because that being originally had the divine ability to express themselves and to actually allow themselves to feel what they are feeling, which is an incredible gift. However, since the ego has taken hold of this part of self, that part of self is now blind to the actual being. And it actually becomes a dynamic of disassociation, where that being is most likely not even sure that they're not allowing themselves to express. So that's essentially how it happens. As this person now continues on and on, there are more situations, more traumas that perhaps just keep adding or building. And that's essentially how we construct our shadow selves. It is when we experience something that hurt us in a way to where we felt we couldn't feel it again. So we develop these parts of ourselves so that we don't experience it again. Now, in the sense of the shadow aspects being angry or being like jealous, that is also a scenario of not allowing self to fully acknowledge what am I really truly feeling, and instead just cutting off and closing eyes essentially, rather than like actually seeing and being truth, which is everything is divine and everyone is divine just as they are. And really truly, like, as long as you're just pure in your intention and your love, everything is all good and the situation will clear itself. We weren't aware of that, and we weren't given the tools and the resources to have like any conception of that. So when we have personally actually experienced in real time these traumatic situations, we quickly, the ego jumps in and develops these aspects of ourselves so that we can stay protected and so that we can essentially survive. So the times that we are currently coming into, that aspect, the shadow aspects of self, are no longer necessary, at least in the way in which they are currently operating. So because the shadow aspects were developed by energy that was suppressed and not allowed to fully express, these shadow aspects, deep within them at the core, actually have been crystallizing a gift within them. Yes, your shadow aspect is actually the one guiding you out of your trauma, your pain, and your own personal illusion that you have constructed. There are actually tools and resources for you underneath the aspects of your shadow. So once you do the shadow work, which is acknowledging, perhaps in the moment when it arises, whoa, I'm feeling really angry, I feel like I can't control this, whoa, this is intense, and allowing yourself to express it, not throwing emotional poison on someone else, but taking yourself perhaps away and allowing yourself to feel into it. I like to really speak to my body. Okay, wow, I'm feeling this fire rising. Okay, wow, I'm feeling this pain here. Whoa, I want to strangle someone. Whatever the case is, allowing yourself to just express it and not judging yourself for it, because often we think or feel these things and we don't actually want to act on these things, and even just allowing yourself to feel or think these things prevents you from actually acting on these things. So if you are experiencing something in real time, it's coming up, take yourself away, allow it to reveal itself, look at it, perhaps talk to it, let it kind of work its way in whichever way, and you will notice it will dissolve. Take 3 deep breaths, perhaps do an om, or do something, some type of move that decides that you've cleared your energetic field, gives you permission to move on. And very significantly so, every time you actually do the shadow work in real time, you are catapulting yourself quantumly to a higher timeline, to really truly align as the best version of yourself and receive the best reality that you deserve, truly. The universe is supporting us as we are doing this shadow work. So initially, it may feel like you are dying. And honestly, I have personally experienced this, where I've experienced a trauma or something. A lot of it is with my family, and something will be said that was said back then and something else happened after that that was terrible. And I will acknowledge, whoa, 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 I'm feeling it right now, I'm feeling it right now. And I've literally just had to breathe with it. And personally, it's the whole time it's this is not okay, this is not okay, this is not okay. And eventually it gets to wow, I'm working through this. But initially it's this is not okay, this doesn't feel right, I must not be doing this right. But after that, once you actually get through the situation and you allow yourself to just feel the feelings and consciously respond rather than just reacting and exploding, that is something that is very important. It's not that we are just exploding all of these things that we've kept in. We are actually taking our newfound awareness, our consciousness, and our connection with our hearts that we now all are connecting to, and we are alchemizing them so that we can actually speak what we truly feel rather than what's just naturally arising that was actually from years ago that wasn't dealt with. Because most likely what is arising within your current situations that you're experiencing to clear the trauma most likely isn't the full initiation of that energy, if that makes sense. All of these energies that you are feeling in those real-time moments that we are experiencing now, they have been built up. They have been they're a volcano ready to explode. So it feels like you are dying in this situation. It may feel like you are dying. Perhaps it's effortless and easy for you, but honestly for me, I actually felt like a part of me was dying, and a lot of my clients that I've been talking to also say the same thing. And truly, a part of you is that aspect of your ego, that shadow aspect of you that is preventing you from actually accessing your true essence, your true power, your true self. That part of you is dying. And so once that actually happens and you move on, you step into a completely new space. So once we have dealt with the shadow aspects, they reveal our true essence and who we truly are at the core. And I promise you, there are so many personality traits, there are so many resources, abilities, talents that you have yet to unlock because they have been hidden by your shadows. So do not fear the shadow work, though it is intense and the moment of it may feel like you are actually dying, and it's not an ideal concept to go and revisit traumas from the past. But we really are only having to do this once, if not just a few more times, where we are full on, as long as you are fully present and devoted in your experience and allowing yourself to truly feel everything, then it actually will be cleared forever. And that sounds oh, okay, I just won't have the pain of this anymore. You actually won't, because pain is an energy and it has been held within our bodies because we haven't allowed them to fully express. But pain is not an energy that stays in the body. It is not natural to the body. It doesn't have the same frequency. It is not in resonance unless you give it a reason to be in resonance. So free yourself from this. And it's also really important to, as we are all doing the shadow work, there are so many people, especially in the spiritual community, who are diving deep into the shadow work, which is so necessary because really there are a lot of distortions in society that need to be surfaced. So this is all truly, truly divine. But it's also important that when you do your shadow work, also make sure that you are bringing yourself back to the light. That you don't get lost in your shadow work and you don't convince yourself that you need to keep healing, you need to keep healing, you need to keep healing. It is necessary, we are all healing, but as we are healing, we can still be present in our lives. Yes, it may be necessary for you to take a few months off, perhaps even a year or two off if you are doing some major shadow work, which a lot of people need to do. So if you feel called to that, and if you've experienced something where it's like a lot of shadow work, a lot of aspects of yourself that you want to bring into balance and into harmony, then please take that time. And again, thank you. It is benefiting everyone because you're doing that. So truly the higher realms applaud you. But once you have come to a space where you're feeling lighter, because you actually will physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally feel lighter once you do this shadow work. Literally, once you like go into the darkness, into the depths, and you like dissect like what is the main core belief, what is the main pain behind this shadow. Once you do that and come out, that whole channel of darkness is actually removed, and then that whole space now is open for more light. So you will continuously feel lighter and brighter as you go through your shadow work, which is, again, is a hilarious concept. But it's important not to get stuck and lost in the shadow work, and make sure to bring yourself out as well. And remember that everything truly is divine. This is a fleeting moment and a fleeting experience, and you deserve to celebrate yourself and you deserve to enjoy your life, especially if you are conscious, especially if you are like actively wanting to bring light to this planet, or to help others, or to help yourself. Or if you are taking the time doing really uncomfortable shadow work so that you can liberate yourself and be a better version of yourself for yourself and society. So thank you so much for tuning in, and for even just clicking on this video. If you have been interested in what shadow work is, or if you've been doing shadow work, thank you. Like, I know I say thank you to my videos a lot, but I actually do feel your energy, and I really do appreciate all of you who resonate with me. It's just so incredible. Like, I love you. I really appreciate you. It is time that we all reclaim the aspects of ourselves that have been suppressed. It is time that we reclaim our power, that we embody our true essence, and just simply express as we are, as who we are. Because I'm telling you, that is truly how we shift. That is how we ascend, is authenticity, is consciousness, is light. You are worthy and deserving. Many blessings.